In part one of our housing series, we looked at the most expensive county in the state and what they're doing to create workforce housing. In this second part, we'll look at Cheyenne and housing history.
The next obstacle for housing projects is an old one. It's NIMBYism, or not in my backyard.
We're trying to look at policy to fix policy and figure out how we got to a place where our wealth divide is so great and why it keeps growing.
Right. According to Brenda Burkle, director of the Affordable Housing Task Force and executive director of the nonprofit My Front Door, says if we look at access to housing resources historically, it's excluded women and people of color. Burkle says after the stock market crash from 1933 on, the Homeowners Loan Corporation established residential security maps that defined areas that were safe and risky. Coincidentally, these maps fell along racial lines, which limited access to government loans for some. In 1944, the Service Member Readjustment Act limited access to unemployment benefits, education, and housing based on race. In 1968, the Fair Housing Act established 5 protected classes to combat inequality, but didn't include gender until 1974 or family status until 1988, affecting BIPOC and single moms the most, causing them to fall in greater numbers into cycles of poverty.
Owning property has always been about building wealth and economic development. If you're the government, it's economic development. If it's an individual or a family, it's really building wealth.
And it wasn't until 2021, Wyoming's Housing Bill 91 finally allowed for the removal of racist or unconstitutional housing covenants.
Now when you think about folks who say, gosh, I understand we need housing, just not in my backyard. Right? And so when you think about the NIMBY mentality and you think about when they say, gosh, those people really don't fit in our neighborhood, it's really another word for classism. And classism has direct roots to racism.
Authorities say that NIMBYism supporters will often say that local government and states' rights supersede all. Therefore, NIMBYism is the people's will.
If you're concerned about those people, I would encourage you to do your research and find out about property values that have included a mix of different types of housing, both every income stream and use, and find out what it does. I think you're going to be amazed that it actually brings up property values.
Burkle says that YIMBYs, or yes in my backyard folks, should be more vocal about building more places that a workforce can afford.
If you want workers and you want amenities, they have to have a pillow. It's humane.
I'm Valeria Fugate, Wyoming News Now.
In part 3, we'll look at possible solutions that are working and some that are being proposed as solutions. Come on back. We'll see you then.